because it is in our story where we truly find that in our DNA, that same DNA that flowed through our ancestors is here today. And that trail of tears, that forced removal, is where we find that resilience so many times.
And so as you think about your journey, about where you have been personally, not only your ancestors, not only your great-grandparents, but where you have been. And we are in the midst of a revitalization right now that is so exciting. The Trail of Tears has some very meaningful stories, but each one of you has stories.
We must amplify our historical perspective and not allow a modern removal. Sovereignty and self-determination are too valuable for future generations. However, this will require not only the strength of our tribal leaders, it will require the strength of our people.
And we know the battles and we know the scars that our ancestors felt because we feel those. And when we peel these layers back, we can find that healing. And our country, our tribes are undergoing a time of healing continuously. But today, we understand that there's so much that is out there for each of us to grasp and to take hold. And it is organizations like this that are going to be paramount to what our youth see tomorrow, so that they can have a future and pass these stories and these things along in the most relevant and the most righteous way each and every day.
We wouldn't be gathering here knowing that we've got a great Cherokee democracy. We wouldn't be here, and I couldn't be here as a chief of a nation, because our nation might not exist. But it does exist. The Cherokee people are still here. We're stronger than ever, and part of our strength is we've got great friends in the National Trail of Tears Association. Thank you all very much for your friendship and your work. Well, thank you so much, Jack. And OCO, everyone. I'm really glad to be with you again. I'm glad that the conference is back here in the Cherokee Nation. But as you know, everywhere you've gone, we've tried to come and support you. No matter where you've had your conference, we've tried to be there to support you. And of course, having you here in the Cherokee Nation is particularly special to us. I love this organization. This organization helps keep that promise that the Congress made in 1987, and it helps continue the efforts that were begun in 1993. We're now, I think, the 30th year of this organization, and I admire it. We support it because it executes on such an important mission, which ought to be near and dear to the heart of every Cherokee leader, and it is. You have some members of our council here, and those that couldn't join us send their regrets. And the deputy chief, I know he was able to join you the other day. But keeping the memory of our forced removal in the minds and the public consciousness in this country is important. And I try to talk about the subject when I go talk to audiences, particularly non-Indian audiences. What I share with them, and something you all know well, is that the history of our forced removal is something the country ought to remember, and it's something we ought to talk about, and we ought to remember that the United States, a great democracy, once tried to crush a great democracy, the Cherokee Nation. They did it more than once, but certainly our forced removal is a part of that dark chapter of history. One thing, though, I try to impress upon audiences, and you all know the history, is our forced removal is important to remember. But the chapter that came after that is just as important, and in some ways more important, because of what it says about the Cherokee people. When I gather with you all, I think about our ancestors and what they went through. I think about those historic sites that you all help maintain and help interpret and help open up to the world and make accessible. I think about the fact that after all of that near destruction of the Cherokee Nation, the splitting apart of our people, the certainly the damage it did to us economically, the damage it did to our social fabric, and what we faced when we were here. I mean, literally right here in this area, when we had to decide as a people whether we were going to give in to the things that divided us or we were going to find a way to unite. That part of our story, I think, is something the country needs to know more, the world needs to have a deeper appreciation of, and our people, particularly the young people coming up, need to remember. I mean, we're living in a world in which divisions are causing such harm to people. And it's happening all around the globe as we speak. And in the United States, it's happening. There's a great deal of division, sadly, as we know, and sometimes it feels irreparable. Sometimes the divisions in the country feel like we can never heal them. And one of the great parts of the Cherokee story is that if you came back to this spot or several other places in the region that you all probably have visited since you've been back, you're visiting places where the divisions were deeper, where the damage probably felt much more irreparable, in which there was probably a fair amount of giving up hope on whether there would be a future of a united Cherokee nation. Our people found a way to overcome that, didn't they? I mean, in this area, it wasn't just that people were at each other's throat in the literal sense. They were at each other's throat. People lost their lives. And yet somehow through all of that, the Cherokee people found those issues, those causes, those commonalities that unite us. And we decided, our ancestors decided, that it was worth preserving what it meant to be when we say we are Cherokee, that was worth preserving, that wasn't something that was going to be relegated to some footnote in some American history book, that what it meant to be Cherokee was worth saving. And we did that right here. And if we did that right here, and we can share with the world what we went through and the divisions that were thrust upon us, and how we almost lost it all, I think the rest of the country might take some hope in finding their own reasons to be united. We need more unity in this country, not more division. And I think the Cherokee story can help remind people that even in the darkest of hours, even where the divide is great, that if you believe in something bigger than yourselves, if you believe that your community and its common interest are superior to your individual interest, and that's what the Cherokee people believe, that's how we survived, then I think there's a great deal of hope for the country and even divisions around the world. Now that's pretty lofty to think that the Cherokee story can help save the world, but I think it's true. I think it's true. None of that is true, though, and none of those lofty aspirations are even attainable if we do not keep alive those stories that I just touched on and that you know well. And the generation coming up, a generation of Cherokees that are bigger in number than any generation before. It's just true. It's the basic mathematics of it. They also have a world of opportunity in front of them. And they live in a society in which they are involved in a great many things and have a great many things that they identify with. But our job as Cherokee leaders and your job, frankly, is to make sure that this generation coming up remembers where they came from, remembers their history, remembers those dark chapters, remember the trauma of removal, but remember the triumph of what came after. That's why I say that next chapter is, I think, as important, if not more important. You all are doing it. You all are keeping that alive. And it's up to the rest of us to keep up with you. And that's why I'm proud that the Cherokee Nation supports this organization, the National Trail of Tears Association, and we support the chapters. And you'll always have our support because we know that the mission that you are dedicated to keeping and the promise that you're dedicated to keeping is something that's very special to us, and it is consequential. What you do is consequential because, again, It signals to the generation coming up that our story matters, that we've got to keep it alive, and that there are dedicated men and women across this country that are working every day to do it. I'm proud to bear witness to it. I'm proud to pitch in where I can. I'm proud that the Cherokee Nation supports this organization financially, but I'm even more proud just to look out here and see so many friends who dedicate so much of their lives to something that's so important to the Cherokee people, to our future. You've got my admiration. If there's anything that we can do with the Cherokee Nation to support you better, we want to do it. But I stand here as the chief of the Cherokee Nation. I feel very fortunate because I think back at this history, and there are so many points in that history in which we might have lost it all, and we wouldn't be gathering here as Cherokees or the Friends of Cherokees. We wouldn't be gathering here knowing that we've got a great Cherokee democracy. We wouldn't be here, and I couldn't be here as a chief of a nation because our nation might not exist. But it does exist. The Cherokee people are still here. We're stronger than ever, and part of our strength is we've got great friends in the National Trail of Tears Association. Thank you all very much for your friendship and your work. What else?
We're glad to have him. Are there any other council members? Okay, very good. Well, the Cherokee Nation has always recognized its veterans because we have fought in every war since the Revolutionary War. And we have our veterans, our chairman of Veterans Affairs, S. Joe Crittenden, is with us tonight. I served on the council with Joe. He served as Deputy Principal Chief and for a while as Principal Chief. So it's my pleasure, and we're actually in for a treat because normally we recognize our Cherokee veterans at our tribal council members. But tonight we're going to recognize one of our veterans here tonight. So, S. Joe Crittenden.
I did serve with Jack, and he and my late brother Larry Crittenden were really good friends. A long time ago from the Westville area. How many veterans do we have in the audience tonight? Can I see a show of hands? Thank you for your service to this country. We owe such a debt to the veterans. We can gather like we're gathering this evening and live in this country. There's a lot of trouble in the world, folks, and we was talking about the Trail of Tears. People over there in Israel and the Gaza Strip, a lot of those folks are totally innocent that are having to leave their homes and being forced out of their homes right now and under fire and no food, no water. We need to remember them. We got 2 carrier groups just off the shore. Mary Kay Henderson's son's on one of them. Let's remember our servicemen standing in harm's way today because they need our prayers. As Jack said, we honored 4 veterans last night at council. We had a father and son men there last night. If I'm not mistaken, that's the first time we've done a father and son. Can't swear to it, but I think it is. And it was quite a deal. And we enjoy that. They do interviews so we can show their pictures and all. And we hold them in high regard, our veterans. They serve at a higher percentage. You all know that. You hear that. And we're thankful for that. And they have the warrior spirit. They want to protect their communities, their countries, their families. And thank God for those that's willing to stand in the breach when they need to. Folks, this evening, we're honored to be able to honor a young lady who served this country in the Army. Would Sandra K. Tiger join me on the stage, please? Chief Hoskin, will you come and help?